What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Twinrova, and this is a gentle introduction to solo role-playing in 2025. When I first started my solo role-playing journey, I remember getting really hung up on how exactly a solo role-playing session works. I spent a lot of time reading ebooks and PDF resources on how to solo roleplay, but it wasn't until I saw a video where someone gave an example of how their role-playing sessions, how their solo role-playing sessions are run, that it finally clicked and I understood how to attempt solo role-playing on my own. And so in today's video, what I want to do is, for anyone that is new to solo role-playing, whether you are hearing about it for the first time and just interested, whether you've tried to get started before and you failed, what I want to do with this video is to give you a single resource that you can use to get started with solo role-playing, and then to show you an example of what it looks like to use this resource to run a solo role-playing session. And if I were to start my solo role-playing journey all over again, if I were to start from scratch, the one resource that I would use to get started with solo role-playing and to experiment and grow with my solo role-playing is Page Mythic. This is simple to learn, inexpensive, and will take you so far into solo role-playing, giving you the confidence you need to scale up into more complex solo role-playing systems, and the confidence you need to integrate a solo role-playing system with another tabletop role-playing game, such as Dungeons & Dragons, for instance. And so I really hope that you enjoy this video for beginners, a gentle introduction to solo role-playing in 2025, the way that I would start over with solo role-playing if I was starting it from scratch. In 2025, we are going to break down Page Mythic, give a little bit of a background on what it is, how it works, and then we're going to dive into a solo role-playing session, and I really hope that you enjoy. Okay, let's kick things off with Page Mythic. What is Page Mythic? Well, Page Mythic is a simplified version of the Mythic Game Master Emulator, so we need to understand what that is first. So here I have the Mythic Game Master Emulator 2nd edition, and in 2025 this is the premier solo role-playing tool. With this tool you can play any tabletop role-playing game absolutely solo. This is an incredible resource. Notice it's the 2nd edition. The 1st edition revolutionized role-playing by making solo role-playing accessible to so many, that this is truly the premier tool. However, this is a 230-page book. And so if you're just hoping to dip your toes into solo role-playing, or if you're trying to learn and figure it out for the first time, this is an excellent resource, but there's a more simple way to learn, and that is with the Page Mythic Game Master Emulator, which the authors of Mythic created to simplify the rules and make it easier to access, to make it easier for people to get into the solo role-playing hobby. So today in this video, I'm going to be breaking down what this resource is, how you can get it, and how it works. And then we'll actually dive into a solo role-playing session using Page Mythic. Now, there are actually two ways to get a copy of Page Mythic. You can purchase Mythic Magazine Volume 25. This is where Page Mythic was originally published. The authors have since started selling Page Mythic on its own as a standalone product due to its popularity. And so in the description to the video, I will link. I'll include a link to where you can actually find and purchase Page Mythic on its own. My copy is in Mythic Magazine Volume 25, so I'm going to scroll down to Page Mythic, and here it is. This is everything you need for solo role-playing on a single page, and I love it. I love how simple and minimalistic this is. This may look like a lot, but fear not, we're gonna go over this. It's by the end of this video, you're going to be an old pro. You're going to feel confident with using one-page Mythic on your own to kick off your own solo role-playing adventure. Okay, so how does this work? What is the promise of Mythic? What is a Game Master emulator? Well, usually when you play a role-playing game with a group, one player serves as the Game Master, and they either create a world to be explored, or maybe they use source books or game books that describe worlds for players to explore. And they get in a group with some players. Players create characters, and the players explore the world. And there's a cadence to this. There's a cycle. The Game Master sets the scene. The players ask questions. Is there a goblin behind the door? If I shove this boulder, will it budge? Is there a staircase leading up to the second floor in this room? The players come up with all kinds of questions, and the Game Master answers with more detail, knowing the world. The Game Master has the world in their mind. The player is exploring the world, asking one question at a time. So you have the cycle of the player asking a question, the Game Master giving an answer. So the brilliant innovation with Mythic in emulating the Game Master is Mythic gives you a way for the Game Master to answer your question. So the trick is, if you will ask your question as a yes or no, then you can use Mythic to emulate a Game Master, and it will give you a yes or no answer to your questions. And in doing this, you can actually play a tabletop role-playing game as if there was a Game Master present available to answer your questions. And my first thought when learning this was, if the answers are random, then how is there any kind of coherence or consistency in the world? Or aren't I just exploring some random place if I use a table to decide the answers to my questions as I'm playing? And, well, technically, yes, the answers are random. They're actually made cohesive because of your questions and your expectations. You have an expectation about what's coming next. And so you ask the Game Master those questions, and it gives you a yes or no, but you're the one coming up with the questions. And so the world takes on this cohesive form because you are the one asking questions about things that you expect. So this is really brilliant. You end up being able to play a game. You can ask, I swing at the goblin. Do I hit the goblin? And the Game Master will say yes or no. And you can figure out what happens next by asking more questions. It's really brilliant. And even that on its own would be fun. But there's actually one more twist, and that is the random event. And this is really, what I think makes Mythic shine. So as we're using one-page Mythic, we're going to be asking the Game Master questions, and we're going to be rolling dice to get a yes or no answer. We're going to carry on with that continuously to play the game. But sometimes our question is going to trigger a random event. When a random event happens, we're going to roll for words on an action table to describe something random that happens. And based on those words, we're going to come up with some random event that occurs in our game. And this is gold because, as you can imagine, even if the Game Master can give you a cohesive world based on your questions, that's somewhat limiting because the game is limited to only what you can think of. By introducing random events with random words that spur new thoughts in your mind as you play, Mythic is actually able to inject new ideas that you wouldn't have thought of into your game. And this is functionally the same as if a Game Master had prepared these twists and turns for you. So altogether, this works out to be a beautiful game to play. A lot of people will take Mythic and they'll play another game with it. For instance, Dungeons & Dragons, they'll learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons, and then instead of having a group all create a party with the Dungeon Master and having 5 players in real life, playing together, they'll use something like Page Mythic to serve as the game master. They'll create a character, and then they'll play the game with D&D next to Page Mythic. However, you don't have to do this. You can have an entire solo role-playing campaign using nothing but Page Mythic. And so the next thing that I'm going to do, after just giving you a brief introduction to this one-page resource, is I'm actually going to kick off a solo role-playing adventure using Page Mythic. We're going to create a setting, a character, an adventure absolutely from scratch using nothing but this resource. I'll tell you exactly how it works, and I will pause and prompt you to think about how you would answer questions along the way so that you can start to grow your solo role-playing skills and become more confident as a solo role player. Okay, so we want to have a solo role-playing adventure. We want to have fun. We're coming at Page Mythic just wanting to have a fun time. I don't have any expectations about who is going to be involved in this adventure, where it takes place. No expectations, no limits. We have a completely blank canvas. Now, what tools am I going to be using in this session? So first off, we have Page Mythic, right? The only gaming resource, the only book resource that we will need. I have notes, a place to take notes. I'm using an app called Notion to take notes, but you can have a piece of paper. You can have your own note-taking app, whatever works for you. I like using this when I'm recording videos so that I can quickly jump back and forth between my rulebooks and my notes. And then we're going to need dice. And so for Page Mythic, you're going to need a way to roll a D100. And so you can take 2 D10, right? Here I have a D10. If you have 2 D10, you can roll them together to make 100. If you only have D10 with 0 through 9 on them, you'll have to pick one to be your 10's place. You'll have to pick another to be your 1's place. I actually have a D10 that has 10, 20, 30, all the way through 90 on it. It makes it easy to see a D100 roll. But a D100, those are the only dice that you're going to need to play with Page Mythic. Every dice roll is a D100 roll in the system. Yeah, so that's it. You need a way to take notes. You need a copy of Page Mythic, and you need a D100. Which if you don't have a D100, you can actually, there are lots of apps that you can use on your phone. I think I have an app. I'm going to open up my phone really quick. It's called like Simple RPG Dice. RPG Simple Dice is the name of the app, and it has a D100. It's absolutely free. It's on the Google Play Store. I'm not sure if it's on the Apple Store, but it shouldn't be too hard to find and download an RPG Dice app that you can use to roll a D100 and follow along with Page Mythic and start playing. Okay, so how are we going to invent a solo role-playing campaign from scratch? Well, what do I want to learn about first? Do I want to learn about myself or about where I am? I guess I'm going to ask a question about myself. Who am I? Okay, so when we're using Page Mythic, we can ask the game master yes or no questions, which might trigger random events. There's actually another thing we can do called Discover Meaning, which is a way to get more detail about your adventure without asking a yes or no question. And I find it very useful at the start of an adventure to discover meaning, to kind of set the scene for an adventure. So how this works is we're going to pick one of these tables. These are the Discover Meaning tables. There's an action table that are going to give you action words, and there is a description table that will give you description words. Makes sense, right? You roll a D100 on this table, and it gives you a word. So when you have a question that can be answered by these tables, you roll a D100 and you get a word, and you try to answer your question with that word. And if you need more information, you roll for a second word. If you need more information, you roll for a third word. Really, usually it shouldn't take you more than 3 words to come to an answer. Sometimes it will take you more. Most of the time, by the second word or so, I have an answer. Whatever the case, we can use this to kind of randomly generate details about our game world when we don't have a good yes or no question to ask. So for instance, I could ask, like, am I a warrior? Am I a doctor? Am I a lawyer? Like, I could ask all these questions, yes or no, about who I am. But I want to know who I am, and I want to get to an answer more quickly. So the first step that I'm going to take is I'm going to roll for a description word. I'm going to discover meaning on the description table. That's how we're going to say this. To learn who am I? Who am I? Describe me. Mythic. I roll a 50. I am large. Ooh, interesting. Right off the bat, I am large. That makes me think of a giant. Okay. Mythic. Am I a giant? So I'm going to ask the game master, am I a giant? And it's going to give me a yes or no answer. Now, if you look at this table, it actually we'll read through this. Ask the game master. Follow your expectations about what happens next to move your adventure along. When you aren't sure, then ask yes or no questions to find out. The first thing we'll do is form a question. We're going to ask a yes or no question. Assign odds to that question. We're going to decide the odds of the answer being yes. 50-50 if the odds are even or you don't know. This is really interesting. If you don't know the odds, the default is 50-50, which is cool because it allows crazy things to happen in your adventure. Likely, very likely, nearly certain, or certain if the odds are good, and unlikely, very unlikely, nearly impossible, or impossible if the odds are bad. So then we're going to check the chart. Once we have a question, we assign odds. So for instance, am I a giant? I'm going to say it's very likely that I'm a giant. The next thing we're going to do is check the chart. Roll a 1d100 and check the Ask the Game Master chart for the answer. So I'm large. Am I a giant? Very likely. I'm going to roll a d100. And we get, that is 39 on very likely. A 39 is a yes. So yes, I am a giant. The last step is to interpret the answer. Okay, so I am kicking off the campaign as a giant. Okay, and so this leads me to the question, am I in Gielinor? Am I a giant in RuneScape? I have a RuneScape channel. I literally was just playing 2001scape and dreaming about killing ice giants in the future. Am I an ice giant? I'm going to say that, or am I a giant from RuneScape? I'm going to say that this is likely, given my channel and what I want, I guess. We'll call it likely. I'll roll a d100. I get 88, a likely. Unlikely, 88 is a no. No, I am not a giant from RuneScape. However, we just rolled doubles, 88. If you roll a double, so here under random events it says asking the GM can generate random events. Roll a double. If you ask the GM and roll a double-digit number, 11, 22, 33, 88 as an example, then you generate a random event. Discover meaning. Follow the discover meaning rules to determine what happens next. Interpret the results as an event using the current context to help guide you. Okay, so I'm not necessarily a giant from the world of RuneScape, which would have been a lot of context if we added that to the game. However, I'm a giant and something random is going to happen to me. Let's roll. Let's discover meaning on the action table to see what happens. I get an 8. Break. Something breaks. Ooh. Break. Do I break a bone? Did I just break a bone? I don't know. 50-50. Ask the Game Master. 54. No, I did not break a bone. Let's get another action word. What did I break? Actually, I want a description of what broke. I'm going to roll. I'm going to discover meaning on the description table to understand what did I break. 23, or what broke. I didn't necessarily break it. Break, disagreeable. Ooh, okay. So someone just broke or died. Did I just kill someone? I don't know, 50-50. 51, that's a no. Did I just discover someone killed? 50-50. 50-50, that is a yes. Ooh, I just discovered someone dead. Is it a giant that I know has a lot of enemies, is very disagreeable? I'm going to say that this is very likely. 20, that's a yes. Okay. So I'm a giant, and I just came across a giant that is dead. Oh my gosh. Okay. So just like that, we have this kind of fantasy crime scene. Maybe I'll take a note that says, I stumbled on a dead giant. What is their name? I'm going to roll a description word to maybe describe something that can give me a good name. Description word 49. I get large. Wow, I rolled large twice already. Okay. So, Largo. I stumbled on... Switch to my notes. I stumbled on Largo and found... Largo sounds like a man's name. Found him dead. We'll call it a male giant. Stumbled on Largo and found him dead. Where did I find him dead? Let's describe where this is happening. I'll get a description word. 72. Somewhere peaceful. I stumbled upon Largo and found him dead in a field. What was I doing there? Was I just traveling through the field going from point A to point B? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. That is an 87. An 87 is a no. Okay, so I was not just traveling from point A to point B. I actually was looking for something in the field. I'm a giant. Maybe I was harvesting plants. Was I herding? Was I herding in the fields? Do I have some kind of large livestock that I'm tending to? I'm going to say that is likely. 99. That is an exceptional no. Now this is interesting. If the number that you roll is high enough or low enough, then rather than a yes or a no, you get an exceptional yes or an exceptional no. And here are some descriptions of Ask the Game Master answers. If a yes, the answer is yes and follow your expectations. If no, the answer is no and follow your expectations. If you are unsure how to interpret this, then discover meaning for an answer. If we get exceptional yes, the answer is yes and more. Go beyond your expectations. If you get an exceptional no, the same as a no, but beyond your expectations. So no, I was not herding. No, I was not herding some kind of livestock in the field when I came across Largo and found him dead in a field. No, I was not herding cattle. Exceptionally no. Did I expect this to happen? Ooh, was I expecting someone else to kill Largo and I came up on him knowing he would be dead? Ooh. Intrigue. I'm going to say that this is likely. We get 64. That is a yes. Ooh, so my character is a giant and knew Largo was going to die. Was there a hit on Largo? I'm going to say that is very likely. 26, that is a yes. Someone meant to kill Largo. Was it common knowledge that there was going to be a fight? We'll call it 50-50. That it was common knowledge that Largo was going to get into a fight. 50-50. 001. Exceptional yes. So everyone knew that Largo was going to get in a fight, and I actually skipped. In my excitement, I skipped a random event. We rolled a 99 earlier, and so I need to generate a random event. So I'm in the field, discovering Largo. Everyone knew that Largo was going to get in a fight. Maybe I went to the field to see who won or lost and found Largo dead, so the other person obviously won. When something random happens, let's discover meaning on the action table to figure out what happens next. 74, that is the action negative. Something negative happens. Ooh. Does the person who killed Largo spot me? I'm going to say that is likely. 79, that is a no. Something else negative happens. Okay. I want to describe what's negative. Let's get another action word to see what happens. I need a little more help here. Roll a D100 for a second word on the action table. 70, negative and mundane. Something negative and mundane happens to me. I don't know. I could tweak my ankle. Ooh, negative and mundane. Do I trip and fall and land on dead Largo? Oh, that's kind of gross. Let's ask it. 50-50. 39, yes. So as I'm inspecting Largo, I kind of slip and fall and just, slam. I've got nasty blood and stuff all over me. But this is bad because now I am maybe covered in blood or, nasty stuff. But everyone knows that Largo was going to be in a fight with someone. Now, why the heck am I out here? Why am I going to... Did I know Largo well? Largo was disagreeable. Was I Largo's friend? Let's say 50-50. I don't know. 31, yes. So I am quite upset. Actually, I'm going to ask, am I very upset right now? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 20, yes. So my character... When the adventure opens, the first scene is a giant, maybe crying over the dead body of Largo. Oh, that's sad. He's dead, and in our bawling mess, we slip and fall, land on Largo. We're covered in tears, blood, dirt, out in the field. What's the weather like? I want to know, let's set the scene even further. Give me a description word for the weather. 54, it is loud. So it's pouring rain, thunder. This is a dramatic opening scene. And with our character, the giant, crying over their lost friend in the storm, does our character suddenly look up with intensity in their eyes and seek vengeance on whoever killed Largo? We know who killed Largo, right? Like, if it was well known, then we know the other person. Yeah, that's certain. That's certain. Why don't we go ahead and ask just in case? Do we know who it was that killed Largo? I'm going to say that this is certain. 22. That is a yes and a random event. Let's roll for an action word. 14, character. So someone maybe comes along. 60, character, help. Okay. So we're balling in the field over Largo's death. Maybe someone, another giant, shows up on the scene, maybe coming after us to make sure that we're okay. Is it a friend? Is it a friend of ours that is coming to check on us? I'm going to say that is nearly certain. Ask the game master. I get an 11. That is that Oh, I forgot what odds that I gave. I think that's an exceptional yes almost no matter what. So this is definitely a close friend that is showing up to check on us specifically. And 11, that's another random event. Let's roll for an action word. 57. Harm. Ooh. Random event, harm. Does our friend show up to harm us? Ooh. I don't think so. I think it's more likely that our friend suggests that we harm the other person in revenge. Is that what happens? I'm going to say that this is very likely. Roll an 87. Very likely an 87 is a no. Our friend does not suggest that we harm the other person. Let's get another word for context. First action word was harm. Second is 66. I'm rolling a lot of doubles in this session. Leave. Harm, leave. Ooh. Harm us if we leave. What if our character... Let's give him a name. Let's give our character a name. Let's get a description. Description word 64. Natural. Something natural. Like rock, like stone. Stone? Stone what? Let's get another description word. 56. Mechanical. Stone. What's something mechanical? Stone Gear. Stone Gear the Giant is in the field with Largo. I'm going to take a note of his name. Crying, smeared with blood, when suddenly one of Stone Gear's close friends, get a description word for a name, 27, extravagant. What's something extravagant? Like colors, like bright colors, like the color pink, like maybe pink is the name of the giant. I don't know. Stone Gear is crying in the field over Largo's death when Pink shows up. Now, harm, leave. Does Pink threaten to harm us if we leave the scene? Does one of Largo's close friends show up and seem like they're offering their support, seem like they're going to offer their condolences, and then in the thunder, in the rain, slowly draw their club and take an offensive stance? Oh, this is intense. This is intense already. Okay. I think, given the circumstance, given the harm leave roll, I'm thinking that this is nearly certain. Oh no. 27, that is a yes. So Pink, one of Stone Gear's close friends, comes out into the field, sees him standing there, lying there really, with Largo dead. But Pink isn't here to console Stone Gear. No. Does Stone Gear notice? Wow. Does Stone Gear realize pretty quickly that Pink is turning on him? And I actually don't know this. I have no idea. I don't know what Stone Gear's sensors are like. If Pink is trying to be sneaky, I think in a normal circumstance, it would be 50-50 because we don't know what Stone Gear's reflexes are like, if he would be able to tell, if his intuition is enough. But it's also raining and storming, so I would say that it's very unlikely that Stone Gear even notices that Pink has drawn his club and is menacingly threatening us. Oh my gosh. I have no idea who... We don't really have much info about Stone Gear's life, but it sounds like his life is immediately falling apart very quickly. I'm going to say it's very unlikely that Stone Gear notices. 007, James Bond. Exceptional yes, he does. Oh my gosh, so Stone Gear's crying. He's bawling over his friend when Pink shows up. Maybe Stonegear hears him behind him. He's crying. He knows who it is that's coming. When suddenly Pink, slowly but surely, he takes a hand and unclips his satchel belt. He's got a large club hanging, massive club hanging from his belt, because these are giants, right? I'm thinking like Skyrim, like frost white skin, long beards, clubs that they're fighting with. The clip, he unclips his satchel, and the sound just alerts Stonegear, who turns and sees Pink with his hand on his club and says, through his tears, "Pink? Me?" Suddenly he starts to realize what's happening. It dawns on him. Why would Pink be reaching for the club? What other reason? It's Largo and someone dead alone in the field. Who else could Pink be threatening? He intended to secretly dispatch Stonegear also, and Stonegear turns, realizes this, his eyes wide. Does Pink say something? I'm going to say that being caught in this, it's nearly certain that he says something. 66. That is a yes. He says something, and we have a random event. Again, wow. This is off to a wild start. First action word, random thing that happens. 26. Create what? 22. Create conflict. Ooh. Pink is going to say something threatening. Pink says, does Pink say, why does he try to, he's Stonegear's friend, is Pink going to try to justify himself and why he has to kill Stonegear? I'm going to say that this is not like a kidnapping situation. The club is not for threat. He was sneaking. He was trying to kill Stonegear. Is Pink going to justify his actions in words while readying his club for combat? I'm going to say that this is certain. If they're really friends, he's going to feel guilt, and he's going to feel the need to justify himself, even if he's already decided what his actions will be. I'm going to say that this is certain. We get an 81. That is a yes. Now notice that when something is certain, the odds of a yes increase drastically. When something is impossible, the odds of a yes reduce drastically. So this 81 that we just rolled, if it was 50-50, it would be a no. Even if it was very likely, it would be a no. But for something that's certain, an 81 is a yes. So Pink draws his club and says something along the lines of, "I can't let you leave. They would kill me too." Something like that. In Stonegear, well, I'm Stonegear, so I can decide what Stonegear does. I'm going to look around. Does Largo still have his weapon on him? Did Largo's Victor take his weapon with him? Does Largo still have a weapon on him? Oh, I almost feel like the Victor would have taken his weapon. I don't know. Does Largo still have a weapon on him? I'm going to say that is unlikely. We'll roll for it. We get a 19. Oh, that is actually a yes. So Largo still has a weapon on the ground. Is it a club on his... Is it a club that was in his hands that's now on the ground? That we're going to say that that's what it is. There's a club on the ground near his hands. And so Pink is saying he can't let me leave. And he is menacing threateningly. He can't let me leave because they'd kill him too. And so he is resolute in his decision. We're already past the point of no return. Pink is our close friend. The betrayal. Stone Gear is shocked at the betrayal. Pink is raising the club, ready for combat. Stone Gear is going to jump at the... Stone Gear is going to jump at the club, at Largo's club, and try to lift it, get himself into a defensive stance. Is Pink going to jump at that chance? Does Pink react quickly? Does Pink react aggressively to Stone Gear's lunge for Largo's fallen club? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 72, that is a yes. So Stone Gear turns, sees the club, dives for it. Pink readies his club and brings it down in an arc. Does Pink's club connect with Stone Gear? I'm going to say that this is... Ooh. Is it 50-50? I don't know the odds. I don't know the combat prowess of either of these individuals. I do know that Stone Gear had really good reflexes and heard through the thunder that Pink was approaching. Stone Gear heard the clip of a buckle in the rain and thunder. So with that, I'm actually going to say that there was some distance, some space between Largo and Stone Gear on the ground and Pink approaching. So I'm going to say that it's going to take a little bit of effort for Pink to actually land this blow. In the thunder, in the storm, but Stone Gear's unarmed. I don't know, why don't we make it 50-50 if he connects? Does Pink connect with Stone Gear, with his club? 50-50, rolling it. 85, no, he does not connect. Ooh, we're so lucky. So Stone Gear clutches the club. Pink's club smashes to the ground. Ooh, maybe it leaves a hole in Largo. I don't know if he misses some kind of gross squish. Stone Gear comes up to his feet and brandishes the club, pointing it at Pink as a fencing combatant would hold his rapier forward. Stone Gear's holding the club, brandishing in front of him. Ooh, do we want to say something to Pink? This is a moment, so we just had this blow. Pink lifts his club. I'm going to say that Stone Gear wasn't quick enough to actually attack Pink. Stone Gear just comes up to the defensive. He's breathing heavily. He was just attacked by his best friend. One of his other friends just was killed. He's about to be killed next. Ooh, do we want to say something dramatic to make Pink feel bad? Maybe if we dig at Pink's psyche enough, maybe in the future, Pink could become an ally. I have no idea what's happening here, who it is that sent Pink to kill us. I really don't know why. But maybe we do some kind of Star Wars thing like, you were a brother to me. Yeah, we're going to say something like that. We're going to say, you were a brother to me, to Pink, and see if we can register any flicker of emotion on their face. Does Pink respond visibly in any kind of way to this statement? I'm going to say that it's at least likely. I'm not going to say that it's very likely or nearly certain, just based on what he said about him, based on Pink needing to justify his own actions. I'm going to say that it's likely that there's some kind of emotional response. 55, that is a yes. So there's a flash of something across Pink's face as we say this. Maybe remorse, maybe regret. But then, random event, an action. Let's roll for an action word. 54, goals. Interesting. Goals, 80, obstacle. There's an obstacle to goals. So maybe Pink is going to say something about how there's an obstacle preventing him from letting Stone Gear leave. his goal would have been to always have Stonegear's back, but there's an obstacle. Someone or something is threatening him. Who is it? Let's describe who or what it is that is forcing this situation on Pink, the giant, Stonegear's friend. Let's roll for a description word. And we get 51. Light. Interesting. Let's get another word. 32. Light and fragrant. What? Makes me think of like a flower. Is it fairies? Is it fairies? I'm going to say that is very likely that it's fairies. 83. That is a no. It's not fairies. Something light and fragrant. Let's say that they are spirits. A light and fragrant spirit. Something. Is it something mythological or otherworldly? I'm going to say this is very likely. 48, yes. So there's some kind of spirit creature, light and fragrant. It makes me think of a fairy, but maybe it's not actually. Maybe it's a fae of some kind, but just not an actual fairy. Light and fragrant. What could be? I'm going to take note of this. Light and fragrant. Flowers. It makes me think of nature. Yeah, like forest nymphs. Yeah, maybe there are like forest tree creatures, like spirits inside the trees that want me dead for some reason. So maybe Pink implores me and says, you know the spirits will kill me. You know I don't have any choice. Like, don't put him through the mental pain because it's not even his choice. He doesn't even get to make a choice. Now, I really have no idea what's going on in this mental movie that we are conjuring out of thin air, but it seems appropriately epic at this time to say something along the lines of Stonegear says to Pink something like, but there is a choice. Come with me. We will escape together and seek vengeance. Maybe Stonegear tries his best to convince Pink to go against the instructions of whatever natural force, whatever mythical beings are forcing him into this murder, to fight against whatever fate that he feels resigned to, and to join Stonegear, and together they can escape and fight against whatever this force is. Can Stonegear convince Pink the giant to change his ways? There are a few factors at play here, and keep in mind that anytime I'm asking a question, I'm asking the question because I'm interested in the answer. It's important to know if Pink is going to believe Stonegear or not. This is important to the story. It's important for the role-playing. And so that's why I choose to ask the question, but then the odds, I'm assigning the odds based on my gut feel. When you let's take a moment and you take a moment to think about it. What are the odds in your mind? What are the odds that Pink is going to stop attacking Stonegear and agree to run away with him and escape whatever force is oppressing the giants? Do you think it's likely? Do you think it's unlikely? Why? Or why not? Now keep in mind that there's no right or wrong answer here. And that's because there's no pre-planned story behind the scenes. This is completely based on your expectations. And my expectations and your expectations can be completely different. And that is totally okay. Neither is right or wrong. It's likely that I'm not going to pick the same odds that you just came up with in your head, and my odds are going to be chosen maybe for different reasons than you, and that's okay. Either way, the odds are rooted in our expectations, and it's okay because random events come along to subvert our expectations and to take our adventures in a new direction. So in this case, what I like to do is I like to think about the skill of each person. So if this was Dungeons and Dragons, then we'd have some skill that we could roll against, some ability score that we could roll against. Maybe charisma is a statistic that we would have in Dungeons and Dragons, and we could use that to compare Stonegear the Giant's ability to persuade with Pink the Giant's resistance, right? And so this is a more simple situation. We don't have that. So I can just think about how persuasive is Stonegear versus how receptive is Pink, and we don't know. We don't know either of those facts. So I would start off with unknown with a 50-50 and then shift up or down based on additional factors. Now, if I were to ask a question about Stonegear's reflexes, at the beginning of the adventure, I had no idea what Stonegear's agility looked like, but because we know that he heard Pink unbuckling his club in the middle of a storm, now, for the rest of the adventure, we have the extra context that Stonegear is very perceptive. So in the future, if I'm asking a question about Stonegear's perception, I can give those questions better odds. Stonegear is very likely to notice something now that I have that additional context. So for now, I'm going to ask this question. I'm starting with 50-50 for Stonegear's persuasive abilities, but if this goes really well, I might know that for the future, or if it goes very poorly, then we'll know that for the future also. Now, Pink has already basically revealed his hand. He's revealed his cards that he's willing to kill Stonegear. So some piece of their trust has been irrevocably broken, so it seems. And so, to me, it seems unlikely, not only just unlikely, but very unlikely that Pink is willing to set aside his own action. If Pink and Stonegear really were friends, and they've crossed this bridge already, so much trust has been lost, I think it's very unlikely for Pink to follow along with this. Now, given, additionally, that these forest nymphs seem to have incited the death of Largo. Largo's the giant that we found dead, and is pushing Pink to do this. Obviously, the forest nymphs are powerful. They're urging him on. So I'm actually going to move this down to nearly impossible because of that. We have the fact that they were friends and this trust has been broken. And so to me, that moved it from 50-50 to very unlikely. We have the forest nymphs urging him on. To me, that makes it nearly impossible. But there is one more factor. I think that Pink really is remorseful and regretful and doesn't want to go through with this. It seems like he's pained in having to take this action. So that, to me, brings it back up to very unlikely. And this is not like a rule. This is just me on my own, working through it in my head and figuring out what the odds are. And keep in mind, too, that I'm not going through these hoops every time I determine the odds. Really, I'm just making a gut feel call most of the time. If it's more complex, I might weigh factors and add them together like this. But most of the time, we want to make the call that is, we want to make a call in the quickest way that we can. Notice that we've been playing for, I don't know, 40 minutes to an hour, and we're still in the first scene. There have been a lot of questions to ask, a lot to uncover in this scene. So if we take a long time to come up with our odds, then we're slowing down the pace of our adventure, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with taking your time. Sometimes if you only have 15 or 20 minutes to play, you might have an expectation. You might have an expectation for yourself that you move through your adventure more quickly, so that you can feel like you're making progress, even though you don't have a lot of time to invest in your role playing, and that's fine too. Either way, whatever the case, we can make a quick judgment call on the odds based on how we feel about the situation. So I'm going to call this very unlikely that Pink actually is persuaded by Stone Gear. Let's roll for it. We get a 78. Very unlikely a 78. That is clearly a no. So does Pink respond with words first? I'm going to say that that's very likely. 93. That's a no. So rather than responding with words through, I don't know if he's crying, but with a pained expression on his face, Pink lets out a growl and engages with Stone Gear. So Pink and Stone Gear are now locked in mortal combat. Pink is charging at Stone Gear. I'm gonna get a descriptive word to describe how Pink is coming at Stone Gear. This is going to be to describe the combat. This is just to help me visualize what Pink is doing with his club as he makes this emotionally charged attack. We roll. We get 31. That is a fragrant attack. Ooh, this is a reference back to the nymphs. We'll call them forest nymphs. Wow, so Pink swings his club, and finally, because he's finally turned around and facing the right way. Remember that Stone Gear was rolling basically out of the way of the first attack to pick up a club and take up a defensive stance. He finally realizes that there's some green glow to the club. There's maybe little particles forming at the edge of the club and drifting away. It looks like there's an aura of green around the club, and as the club swings, as Pink takes a step forward and brings the club around in an arc, there's a trail. There's obviously magical energy behind the club. It makes me think that it's enchanted by the forest nymphs in some way. We don't know for sure. That's just visually. That's what. It's the first thing that comes to mind here. And so Stone Gear is going to, rather than attempting to block this, is actually going to try to completely move out of the way. Just dodge the attack completely. And so with that, we have Pink, who has already missed once, swinging at Stone Gear, who has already dodged once. So is Pink's attack going to connect? I think it's unlikely. I think it's unlikely because of we know Stone Gear's reflexes. I think that Pink's accuracy is going to be pretty low compared to Stone Gear. But if he connects with that, potentially enchanted club, I'm scared to know what's going to happen next. So I'm going to say that Stone Gear attempts to parry just a backwards, out of the way, parrying motion. Does Pink's blow connect with Stone Gear? I'm going to say it's unlikely, and we'll roll for the outcome. We get A 93, does it connect? Exceptional no. It's a clear miss. Stone Gear easily and deftly outmaneuvers Pink, and it actually sets him up for a counterattack. Will Stone Gear return fire at Pink? So far, he's just dodged and defended himself, and I don't know enough about Stone Gear to make this decision. I don't know if Stone Gear wants to let Pink live and run and flee, or if Stone Gear rather wants to make his own attack and potentially kill Pink. And I think I'm gonna let Mythic decide that for me. I'm gonna ask, does Stone Gear want to let Pink live, if possible? I'm going to say that this is likely. I'm going to say that this is very likely, actually, but I don't know for sure. So we're going to roll, and this is going to be rolling to determine Stone Gear's intentions, and then I'll be able to roleplay his actions and decisions more effectively, knowing this. Wow, this is really interesting. So very likely he wants to let Pink live. 002, exceptional, yes. Oh my gosh, no matter what what odds I called, this was going to be an exceptional yes. So Stone Gear is not interested in killing Pink. So I'm actually going to try to turn and flee from the encounter. Yeah, so it was a clear miss. Pink swing and a miss. Stone Gear backs out of the way. Maybe parries the blow. Maybe there's a little flash of sparks as the enchanted club touches Stone Gear's club, and Stone Gear turns to flee. And the question is, can Stone Gear flee? Can Stone Gear outrun Pink? I think it's likely. Stone Gear seems to be quick. He seems to have good perception and to be fast. And even though Pink had a fancy enchanted club, I think Stone Gear has shown that he is the quicker of the two. So I'm going to say that it's likely. And then furthermore, they're in a storm. And so while I think that it's going to make it tougher, they're in a storm in a field. It's going to make it hard to run. I think it's going to make it even harder to find someone. So I think that's two things that help Stone Gear out in the situation. So I'm going to say it's very likely that Stone Gear gets away. We're going to roll for it. So he turns and he's fleeing through the field as quickly as he can. Pink, assuming is going to follow. Can Stone Gear outrun Pink? We're going to say it's very likely. And we get a 21. That is a yes. Does Pink maybe shout something into the night air as Stone Gear flees? I'm going to say it's likely. That is a 9? A 95? No. Oh, that's an exceptional no. So Pink doesn't make a sound. Thunder rolls as Stone Gear charges into the... Is it day? Is it night? Is it nighttime? Let's say it's 50... I'm going to say it's unlikely that it's actually nighttime. Is it nighttime? Unlikely. 25, that is a yes. It is night. So Stone Gear charges into the dark of the night. Pink the Giant is left behind. I'm going to take some notes here. Let's see. Pink the Giant, one of Stone Gear's closest friends, is compelled by forest nymphs to kill Stone Gear. One of Stone Gear's closest friends, and wielding, if I can spell, an enchanted club, is compelled by forest nymphs to kill Stone Gear. Stone Gear escapes into the stormy night. Now, One Page Mythic doesn't have any concept of the scene, but once you graduate from One Page Mythic and begin playing the Mythic Game Master Emulator proper, I'll show. Once you're playing in the full book, you'll have the idea of a scene, which is, I don't know, there's a lot of ways to think of a scene. One really simple way to think of a scene is a sequence of actions or events that happen in one place until there's some conflict that is resolved. So in this scene, we could say that this has been the first scene of our adventure. Stonegear stumbling upon Largo. There's the tension, the conflict. Pink shows up, seemingly to console Stonegear and check on him, but really, I would not have thought of this, right? This is a case of Mythic injecting random events, interesting random events into our adventure. Pink really is here to kill us, and this could have gone so south. We could have died immediately in the first scene, but somehow it just so happens that Stonegear has great reflexes and is able to survive, has an exchange of words with Pink. They clash, and Stonegear is able to turn and sprint away into the night, which resolves the tension. So we could consider this to be one scene. So in my notes, you might even make a note and say, scene 1, right? Okay. So this is good. This is really interesting. This is like, you can imagine that you are directing a movie, but you don't know the script. But as I'm asking questions that I think are interesting. If there's something that's interesting to me, like if I want to know the weather, right? I'm like, okay, the weather, I want to know if this is dramatically stormy or if it's a bright and sunny day. Questions like that are useful. Also questions that just add to the action. I don't know, what's a good example? Like, I don't know, asking if Stonegear, or yeah, like asking if Pink says something dramatic back to us or not. That is me thinking of this like it's a dramatic fantasy or action movie, and I want to know if this dramatic thing happens next. That's because of my expectations right now. Obviously, I'm in that kind of a mood. I'm thinking of this like a dramatic scene from a movie. You might think of your scenes differently. That's totally okay. That is what is prompting these questions, and it keeps the action moving, keeps things interesting for me. And so now, what happens next? Stonegear is crashing through a field in a storm, plodding through a field more likely. That would be very challenging. I imagine there'd be little potholes and dips everywhere running through a field, but Stonegear very likely knows exactly where he's going, where he's headed to next. And so, I guess my next question is, really I need to know how much Stonegear knows about his surroundings. I'm assuming that Stonegear, Largo, Pink, all of these people probably are from the same community, and if that's the case, which is very, very likely, I'd say that's certain, this location is nearly certainly close to some communal location. I'm going to ask, is this field fairly close to some village, tribal community, some community of giants? I'm going to say that this is actually a certainty, but we're going to ask nonetheless, because I don't know. We'll give it odds of certain. And 87 is just barely a yes. So Stonegear then knows the area. We know that Stonegear knows the area probably very well. So where is he going? He probably can't go home unless he has to go home. Does Stonegear have anyone close to him that lives here? Where are they? We need a name for this town. Is it First off, it's a community. Is it a permanent, fixed community? As in, do these giants live in permanent settlements as opposed to a more nomadic lifestyle? I'm going to say it's very likely that they have permanent settlements, but it's not even nearly certain because they very well could live a nomadic lifestyle. But I'll go ahead and ask. We'll say it's very likely. Okay, 72, that is a yes. Okay, so this is probably a village of sorts of giants, especially if we're in such proximity to a forest. Yeah, let's get it. I'll ask, is the size of this community like a village size? Again, I'll say it's very likely. We get a 50, it's either a 51 or a 57, but either way, that is a yes. So this is a village. Now I want to know what the village is called. I'm going to discover meaning on the description table to try to get some kind of inspiration for a village name. This is the name of a village for giants. That is a 39, a 36 rather, full, okay, Fulton, full top. Let's get another word. 31, fragrant. No way that we keep rolling that. Ooh, full of nymphs, full of forest nymphs. Why don't we call it like Nymph Hollow? Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the notes and say Stone Gear. I'm gonna add a section at the top of my notes. I'm gonna call this setting, and I'm gonna say Nymph Hollow. Should I spell it like that? Or like this? Nymph Hollow. Or should it be like Nymph Follow, something like that? Yeah, Nymph Follow. That's kind of funny. Let's add this to dictionary. And I'm going to say Stone Gear, Largo, Deceased, Pink, and Forest Nymphs are all people that live in Nymph Hollow. Okay, cool. This is just really simple notes so that I can remember what's going on when I leave the adventure and I come back later. I want to pretty quickly understand what's going on, get back up to speed. So we're crashing through Nymph Hollow. Does Stone Gear have someone? Is there somebody, anybody, that Stone Gear is concerned about that maybe he lives with in Nymph Hollow? And actually there needs to be an H, I think. I think it needs to be Nymph Hollow. I don't know if that should be all one word or two words. We'll figure that out. But I really feel like there needs to be the H sound, Nymph Hollow. Okay. Does he have someone that he cares about? He could live alone at this point, but he probably has a family that raised him. And if they have like monogamous relationships, then he might have a family like of his own. How old is Stone Gear? Is Stone Gear an adult? I'm going to say, because I'm role-playing Stone Gear, I'm just going to say that he is an adult. Does Stone Gear live alone? I'm going to say that this is 50-50 because I don't know enough about him to know otherwise. Okay, let's see. 91, that is a no. He does not live alone. Exceptional no. Stone Gear lives with a large family, actually. Wow, so does Stone Gear not only does Stone Gear not live alone, he lives in a house with a full family. Like he might have parents and grandparents all in one large abode. Can you imagine giants living in a big familial home in Nymph Hollow? That is okay. Wild. Do that makes me want to ask: do giant families in this community, in general, live in familial homes? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain, given that last piece of information. 73. That is by and far a yes. So these giants live in their familial homes. Is Pink a member of a different family than Stone Gear? I'm going to say this is very likely. Yeah, it seems less likely that someone from the same family would be trying to kill each other, but maybe that's more of a reason. Who knows? I'm going to say it's very likely that Pink was in a different family than Stone Gear. 007. Exceptional, yes. Not only was Pink in a different family, Pink was in a rival family. A family that did not get along with Stone Gear's family, even though Pink and Stone Gear were friends. Does that mean that Largo was maybe in the same family as Stone Gear? Maybe that's why Pink needs to kill Stone Gear also. Was Stone Gear's entire family ordered killed? Who knows, but this is getting wild. Let's ask the question, is Largo in the same family as Stone Gear? We're going to say that is very likely. 007, that is an exceptional yes. So, wow, Largo and Stone Gear are indeed in the same family. I don't know how to raise that fact any more than it is. Oh, maybe, in fact, Largo was Stone Gear's brother. Bum, bum, bum. Dramatic twist. And Pink is Stone Gear's close friend from another family that opposes Stone Gear's family and Largo's family. So Stone Gear is now rushing to his home to make sure everything's okay, and he has this feeling in the pit of his stomach that this is most certainly not okay. That this is not okay at all. Now, if everyone knew that this fight was going to happen, then that really makes me think that members of Stone Gear's family must have done something pretty drastic. Maybe they did something against the nymphs. Did Largo act alone in whatever wrongdoing, whether it was really wrongdoing or only wrongdoing in the eyes of the nymphs or the village's leaders? Whatever the case, did Largo act alone in this? I'm going to say that it's unlikely because of the response. If Stone Gear and Largo both are being targeted for death, I'm thinking that this must have been some kind of bigger coordinated action between Largo and maybe other members of Stone Gear's family. I'm going to say that it's very unlikely Largo was acting alone. I'm going to roll for it. 55. So, no. Wait, very unlikely. 55. Yeah, no. Largo was not acting alone. And 55 is a random event. So, while Stone Gear is thrashing through the darkness in the stormy night, a random event happens. What happens? He's rushing towards his family home when all of a sudden, let's get an action word. 46. A failure. A failure of what? That is a 6. 61. Failure to increase. Something fails to increase. Maybe the storm begins to lighten. Maybe just as Stone Gear is nearing the village at the end of the forest, the rain begins to let up, and Stone Gear gets a good view of his family's home. Is Stonegear's family home, is it visible from the field? After the trek across the field, is his home visible as the village comes into view? I'm going to say that is nearly certain. That is a 002. That is an exceptional yes. So right at the edge of this field, the first building in sight is Stonegear's family dwelling, his large familial home. And is there something clearly wrong with his home? As it just seems like, for dramatic effect, the rain would lessen up just in time to give him a glimpse of his home. Is there something clearly wrong with it? I'm going to say that this is likely. 37, that is a yes. What is wrong with his home? Let's roll a description. 10 straight up. Clean. Interesting. 41, clean. Helpful. A helpful clean. Sometimes interpretations are tricky, so in this case, we need to come up with something that is harmful to Stonegear's family home, but our descriptive words are clean and helpful. So something that's seemingly helpful, something that would clean the house, maybe is harming it instead. Maybe, for some reason, and you kind of have to think outside the box in these situations. Actually, I'm going to pause right here and say, what would you make of this? Take a moment to think. You have to come up with something harmful to Stonegear's family home, and your descriptions for the thing that's causing it harm is clean and helpful. And there's a rule that you should know about. I don't think this rule is expressed here. Yeah, they don't. Page Mythic doesn't express this rule. When you read the book, The Mythic Game Master Emulator, there's a very helpful rule called the I dunno rule. The I don't know rule. To preserve the pace of your storytelling, if you ever come across an interpretation and you just have no idea what it could be, like if you're just racking your brain trying to figure out how something clean or helpful could possibly be harming your giant family's home, if you're ever asking that exact question and you have no idea, you can say, I don't know, and just toss out the question entirely and try again, either with the same question or with a different question. Just assume that there's nothing wrong with it and move on. And that may at first seem like, oh, you're like breaking a rule or something, or you're not following the rules because you're allowing yourself to throw something out. But really, solo role-playing, especially if you're really getting into it and imagining the scene, if you're really getting into the game, these scenes take time, and so literally anything that you can do to keep the action moving forward at all times is going to be beneficial. I cannot recommend enough actually making the call to say I don't know and toss a result out without feeling any kind of guilt at not finding an answer. Basically, you should know that it's not on you if by some alignment of the stars, some wacky result comes out of Mythic. It's totally okay if in 15 to 30 seconds you can't think of an answer. You probably should just say, I don't know, and move on to keep your scene going. Yeah, and sometimes that's really hard to do. I find myself just spinning my gears on interpretations sometimes because sometimes it's fun. And if you're enjoying it, like no need to rush it or toss it out if you're having fun coming up with the interpretation. But a lot of times we are trying to fit this into the limited time we have, and we want to see the action moving forward. And in that case, you should feel not just free, but you should feel encouraged to make use of the I don't know rule to keep the action moving forward. Okay, so back to the task at hand. I actually do have an idea for this, and I think that something that might be cleaning the house is rain. The rain of the night would be washing whatever's dirty off of the house, maybe. And that seems like it would be helpful, but there's a hole in the roof. There's a hole in the roof that wasn't there when Stone Gear left, and the rain is getting into the house. The house has visible physical damage, and what I want to know next is, I'm going to ask this question: does a blast of green energy similar to the energy from Pink's club, does it blow through the side of the house and cause another hole? I'm going to say that this is very unlikely. Maybe just unlikely. I'm going to say that this is unlikely, but it's where my mind went when I saw the damage. So we'll roll if that happens. And we get a 20. So that is actually, that's actually yes. So in the gloom, in the rainy gloom, as Stone Gear is running through the field towards his family home, worried about his family, the rain lessens and his home comes into view, and he notices a hole, a massive hole in the roof where surely the rain is pouring in, and then a flash of green light, and out of the side of the building, a blast of wood and, whatever materials the building is made of, a green blast flash bursts the side of the building out. There is some combat actively happening in his home. His family is in serious danger. And so I believe that Stone Gear is going to push himself even harder to get there in time to help his family. Wow. So in my notes, I'm going to say, for scene 2, Stone Gear witnesses his house being attacked by forest nymphs as he approaches across the field. Yeah, just simple notes. Okay, so now I want to know, does anything happen on his approach? So he continues, I'm going to assume that he continues seeing signs of conflict as he approaches. Does anything happen to him between where he's at in the field and reaching his family house? Whatever's attacking, is there anything in his way? I don't know the answer. I don't know if there's some creatures out and about, like prowling. I don't know. Something serious is going down on this particular night. I don't know what it is, so I'm going to make this a 50-50 if he comes across something, if something happens to him on the way. We're basically baiting a random event. Does something happen? 50-50. 005, that is an exceptional yes. So we're going to say, yes, something happens, and whatever happens, we're going to magnify it. So let's roll for an action word. 87, we get progress. Let's roll for another word. I feel like that needs a second word. 13, progress, character progress, progressing characters. So why don't we say that a group, he comes across a group of, are they giants? Let's say that's very likely. I'm not going to say nearly certain because there are maybe forest nymphs around here. So I'm going to say it's very likely that he comes across a progression of characters, a group of giants. 67, that is 60, right? Yeah, 67, that is a yes. So there are giants, and what are they doing? They're progressing. So they are making their way through the field. Are they moving in his direction? Let's say that, I don't know, they could be moving in any direction. So I'll say, I don't know, there's 4 directions, and only one of them is his. That's just a rough. We'll say it's unlikely that they're moving directly in his direction. 84, no, they're not. Okay, so there are giants, like several, crossing the field. And do they look like they're all moving together? Do they look like, ooh. Okay, two things I'm thinking. The first thing I thought was that these were combatants, that they have their clubs drawn, and that these giants are after either his family or something. There's some kind of coup happening. Or this actually could be his family wandering through the field, like escaping. And so first I'm going to ask, are these giants combatants of some kind? Are they armed, moving together as some kind of like military unit? I'm going to say that this is the most likely outcome. I'm going to say that this is very likely. 49, we'll say. 49, that is a yes. So these are military, they are combatant giants. Are their clubs glowing? Let's say 50-50. I have no idea. Actually, no, we're going to say 50-50 because this is going to tell me whether, if their clubs are glowing, this is going to add more evidence that this town is just being ransacked by nymph-backed giants. If they don't have glowing clubs, I don't know, there's a few things it could be. Maybe it's a more even fight. Maybe these giants are on the quote-quote good side. I don't know. Good versus evil we have no idea at this point. But maybe the giants are on our family side. Or maybe they're just members of the enemy that don't have enchanted clubs. Who knows? Whatever the case, I'm going to ask, are their clubs enchanted? I'm going to say this is a 50-50 because I don't know the answer. That is a 66. Their clubs are not enchanted, and we have a random event. An action happens. Let's roll for an action word. We get 11. A change. Ooh, do they change direction? They change direction. Do they notice? Oh my gosh, do they notice us? I'm going to say that if all these giants at once change direction, we suddenly see them out of the gloom. It's very likely that they spotted us and they move in our direction. Ooh, very likely. This is not good. 007, that is an exceptionally... So why do we keep rolling James Bond today? That is quite interesting. Okay, so they turn in our direction. I surely recognize them. They surely recognize me if this is a village, a community that we all live in. Are they friendly? Are they friendly? At this point, I'm going to say that combatant giants wandering in a field that see me and turn towards me are either approaching me to kill me or approaching me to protect me. What are the odds that they are friendly? I'm going to say that the majority of the giants, if there's some battle between forces, it feels like, without evidence to the contrary, they would be more likely to side with the more powerful ally, which would probably be the nymphs. So if the nymphs are trying to kill my family, if there are people hunting down my family specifically, which we don't know this for a fact, but it's what the signs are pointing to, I'm going to say it's very unlikely that these giants are friendly. Very unlikely. Okay. Let's roll for it. 008. They are friendly. Oh my gosh, so this unit of giants, this unit of giants without enchanted gloves turns to me and I recognize them. Are they members of my own family? Let's say that this is, I don't know, we'll call it just, is my family big enough to have that many armed? I'll say it is. We'll say it's likely. And 26, yes. So several members of my family, armed, turn towards me and they approach me. Do they have anyone in tow? Do they have anyone older, less firm and able with them? Are they trying to escort people from our family away from the house? This would make a lot of sense. I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 46, that's a yes. So this is actually my family fleeing as a group. Okay, so these are my family members. So who is it? Who is leading this? Is it my, is it like a figure on my generation or the generation above? Is it like an aunt or uncle that is one tier above. Let's ask, is it one of my parents that is leading this effort? I'm going to say that this is 50-50 because I don't know. And 17, that is a yes. So is it my mother leading the charge? Let's call this 50-50. 33, a yes and a random event. Okay, let's roll for an action. We're getting a lot of these. And 54, goals. So I'm going to say that on seeing me, the first thing that my mother does is, that Stonegear's mother does, is shout instructions like, we're evacuating to so-and-so. Where are they going? They're crossing the field. Is this field on the edge of town? Like, is our family home on the edge of the community so that if we're running through this field in a different direction, we're actually completely leaving the village? Yeah, I'm going to say that this is very likely. Yeah, I'm going to say that this is very likely. We get, a 98 no. So this village is just, that's an exceptional no. This field is inside the village. There are other buildings. We're going to have to fight our way through the village, actually, to make it out. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so does Stonegear's mother say that they are fleeing the town? Like they're completely leaving the community? I'm going to say that this is certain. This is a certainty. So 25, that is a yes. And so Stonegear is going to fall in. He sees his family, his mother, who is obviously some form of matriarch of the family, is leading the charge. They've got kids, older giants in tow. This whole family of giants has a perimeter of club-wielding giants on the outside. They are heading across the field, presumably towards the outside of town, maybe towards some kind of gate. Shouts at Stonegear what they're doing. Stonegear is expected, and does, I'm going to say that he does, fall in line, joins the perimeter with his club, and now is just one member of this throng of giants crashing across a field, running from their home. Is there any opportunity for Stonegear to have any kind of conversation with the people around him? We are in a storm. This is the middle of basically like a battle. I'm going to say that this is impossible, that there's any chance for conversation, but I am going to ask the question. 78, that is clearly a no. There's no chance to discuss what's happened with Largo or what's happening in the town. Stonegear is just expected to fall in. Okay, so they're crashing across the field, away from the family home, and towards what? Probably towards the edge of town, but is it just an edge of town? Is there some kind of like... Is there any kind of barrier that would prevent them from just leaving at the closest edge of town? Is there any kind of town wall? I'm going to say that it's likely. I don't know what giants would need to fortify themselves from, but it just kind of makes sense in general for communities to build walls. I don't know. I think it's likely, but I think it's only likely because giants are probably fairly adept at keeping their camp secure. Yeah, so we'll call this roll likely that they do have walls. That is a 63, which is, because we chose odds of likely, a yes, there is some kind of wall. I'm going to imagine that it's like a wooden palisade of sorts, so like wooden stakes, if you will, maybe pointing towards the outside to keep enemies away. a wooden wall, if you will. Okay. And so, is this throng headed for the gate or the wall? If they head to a gate, there's probably, not certainly, but there's probably a giant or giants defending the gate, and in some kind of tactical situation like this, it seems probable that there would be someone at the gate trying to prevent this family's escape. Getting through a wall is going to require breaking down the wall, but you wouldn't have to work through the gate. Okay, and it's not our call actually. So we're just with the throng. It's charging, under Stonegear's mother's leadership, clearly. Does the throng make its way towards the village of Nymph Hollow's gates? I'm going to say town actually now because there's a wall. Is the throng working its way towards the gates? I'm going to say, I don't know, there might be an equal chance that they would take the path of bursting through the wall, trying to make it out of the wall without being spotted. It's stormy, so maybe over the thunder they think they can get away with the sound. I'm going to say it's 50-50 that they're heading towards the town gates. A 44, yes, they are heading towards the gate, and there is a random event, so the throng is moving in the direction of the town gate. They're moving through the field, so maybe they're taking a way around. They're gonna plan to intersect with the buildings and the proper roads of the town nearest to the gate, and something happens. Let's get an action word. As we're going along, 45, there's a failure. Let's do another word. Failure of what? Failure to decrease. Failure to decrease. So earlier, did we have like a failure to increase, and we said it lowered the rain? So let's say that the rain gets heavier. The thunder is rolling. It is pouring muddy as this group of giants is slowly crossing the field. There are children, there are baby giants, and there are older giants, and they're having to move slowly across the field. Does anyone or anything intercept them? They're a big group, but and maybe likely there are people looking for them, but it's storming so heavily, it's so rainy. This must be a big field. Does anyone or anything come across them before they make it to the buildings in the town and the road and the gate? Before they reach that area, does anything or anyone come across them? I'm going to say it's unlikely. 000, that is a 100. And does that generate a random event? I don't think so, no. 100 is not, we're not going to count that as doubles. That is an exceptional no. So they make it all the way to basically to the front of the town. It's like they're working behind the major buildings. And I'm going to guess, is there like a clear like lane or road or pair of roads at a minimum that lead from where they intersect with the town to the front gate? I'm going to say this is nearly certain. There can't be more than one road. Exceptional, yes. Okay, so there's exactly one path. We're going to say that they intersect. They're moving as a group through the fields, the muddy fields, behind buildings at a distance, and they approach the back of some buildings in a road. And the road is leading along, pretty closely along the wall. It's like a flank of the wall towards the town gate. And I am 100% just making this up in my head as I go, using Mythic's prompts to spur the creativity. And if it takes you longer to come up with an answer, know that is totally okay, and I spent very large amounts of time coming up with answers and interpretations when I first began solo role playing. Hopefully this is helping you to understand how to come up with interpretations on the fly, but definitely don't feel discouraged if it's taking you a little longer. When I'm recording too, I'm really picking the first thing that I come to. Like maybe if I was playing offline and not recording, I might actually take a little more time for every interpretation to, maybe more fully consider my options. But for the sake of recording, maybe I'm just picking the first answer and rolling with it. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about the pace and how this is going. Yeah, so I'm just imagining that is what this family would be trying to do. I feel like they'd be if they're taking the path of the field, they're trying to minimize the distance they have to travel through a road that could be guarded or full of enemies. And so I imagine that this is kind of like some flanking lone road that they know if I connect here, then I've got one dangerous path to the gate. Okay. So they approach, and let's say that they are approaching between two buildings. Are these wooden buildings fairly large? I mean, they're for giants, so yes, they're large buildings. Just period, large wooden buildings, and it's pouring. There's a road. Are these very good roads? Are these like dirt roads that are going to be like mud, and you're like just feet, just boots buried in the mud, or are they nicer like cobblestone kind of roads? I don't know. Are the roads very nice? Are they very formal roads? I'm going to say that's unlikely to have like paved or some kind of road like that. Unlikely. 14, yes. They actually are good roads. Interesting. So there's actual stone on the ground. So as soon as the family reaches the edge of the road, it's going to get a little easier to travel. Okay. So is the wall on one side and buildings on the other, or are there buildings on both sides of this road? Are there buildings on both sides of the road? I'm going to say that this is somewhat likely. We'll call it likely. 38. So yes, there are buildings on both sides of the road. Now, very importantly, at the very edge of the road, where the road is touching the field, are there giants or anything dangerous guarding that particular location? I'm going to say that this is unlikely that they're guarding that specific spot. 60. So no, they are not. That's a no. They are not guarding that specific location. So the family is able to, the leading giants, clubs drawn, and stone gear included, step onto the cobblestone street, and they're looking down this long road that, let's say on the left, there is the town gate at the end. Is the gate guarded by giants through the night? I'm going to say that this is certain, that there's some kind of town watch or guard at night. If they have this level of civilization, this is certain. 68 is definitely yes. Now, are there guards? Are there giants? Is there any kind of combat? How am I going to ask this? Are there giants on the road right now between where the family is and the gate? And if there's some kind of crazy event going on in the town, I'm going to call this likely that there is someone or something between the family and the gate. Likely. 43, that's a yes. What is it? Are there giants with glowing clubs in between the family and the gate? Even if they're not at the very edge of the road, do we have some giants with the enchanted clubs hanging out in the street? Let's say that this is very likely. 87, that is a no. Okay, so instead, there is, oh my gosh, let's say that there's actually... Is it a nymph? It could be giants without the without the glowing clubs. It could be a forest nymph. Let's say that there's actually a nymph in the road and it's flying. Let's say that it has wings and it's flying above the road and it's glowing. The magic, the green magical like dust that was emanating or pulsating from Pink's club is clearly emanating from this nymph that is floating in the road. What is it doing? I don't know. Let's discover meaning on the action table to see what the nymph is doing as the family reaches the edge of the road and can see it in the distance. Its glow through the storm. What do we see it doing? 49. We see it fighting. Wow. It is fighting. Are there giants that it is fighting, or is it firing blasts of energy into the buildings? Is it just kind of rampantly spreading destruction? It seems less likely that that is happening. What if do we see it blast through the door of a building and enter the building? We'll call it 50-50. Maybe that gets it out of our way. 88, no, but instead we have another random event. It's fighting. We don't know what. Oh, did I just roll a d20 instead of a d10? That's hilarious. Okay. So 60. 61. What happens? Increase of what? 13. Increase of character. It is fighting and another nymph arrives. Okay, so there are multiple nymphs in our view and they're fighting. Are they blasting their magical energy at giants? Are there giants attacking the nymphs? 50-50. 22, that is a yes. And another random event. So let's say that there's a nymph and there are giants coming up and swinging at it, and it'll fire a blast of green energy that punctures through the giant and the giant will fall and another giant approaches. So one nymph is just in battle killing giants that approach to attack it, while another maybe comes out of a ruined building. It's maybe on in I don't know if it's on fire. A second nymph bursts from a building, and so there's two nymphs in the road. They are definitely in a fighting spirit when something else happens. Let's roll for an action word. 57. Harm. 20. Harm. Conclude. Ooh. Harm the conclusion of this family journey is what it seems like. I'm going to say that the one nymph is at a distance and it's clearly fighting giants, and another nymph bursts from a building near where the family is at the edge of the road, and maybe it turns and just sends a bolt of magical energy in the direction of the family throng. So what happens? The bolt, it flies through the air. Does it hit one of the family members? So we're going to say that is very likely that it lands. Well, how far away? Is the nymph very far away from where we are right now? Like, is it a good distance? Like, it would be a pretty accurate bow shot? I'm going to say 50-50. Yes, so it's a little bit of a distance. So it comes out, it turns, it sees a bunch of giants, and it just aims and lets loose a bolt of energy in our general direction. Does it hit someone? We're going to say that this is at a distance. This is likely. 005, exceptionally yes. So the bolt goes straight through one of the giants on the front line. Is it Stone Gear? Is Stone Gear hit by this? There's a lot of us, so I'm going to say that this is very unlikely. We get an 18. Oh, very unlikely, 18. That is a yes. So, Stone Gear gets hit. Ooh, in the body, somewhere. Stone Gear gets hit, and it goes through Stone Gear and continues to hit family members behind him. Ooh, where does it hit us? Does it hit us somewhere in the body? I'm going to say that that is likely, like the torso area. 62, that is a yes. So, Stone Gear collapses to the ground, has more or less had his a part of his body ripped away, and is now bleeding out on the ground. Oh, this is awful. I was thinking, okay, there's so many of us, it's not very likely for me to be the one that actually got hit, but the first blast of the nymph just tears into Stone Gear's torso. He falls to the ground. People behind him get hit and, either fall to the ground or die or what have you right then. So how's the throng going to react to this? Stone Gear is on the ground, grasping for life, basically. Does the throng charge? Does the throng retreat? What will these giants do under fire? Like, very clearly, people fall immediately. So, do they just scatter? I'm going to say that they are very likely to break, but there are older family members, so maybe it's more of a retreat. So, this is brutal and awful. So, I'm going to ask, does the throng of familial giants start to have a panicked retreat? I'm going to say that this is very likely. 15, that's a yes. Is Stone Gear's mother shouting for her family to fall back? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 24. So he can hear his mother shouting to fall back in the rain. This is brutal. So he is sitting still, and the group begins to work their way backwards. Does the nymph aggressively charge the large group of giants? And I'm going to say, based on their aggressive stance, that this is nearly certain. 81. Ooh, is that a yes? Yes, that is still a yes. Yes, so the nymph continues. The nymph actually charges at the family. Do they begin opening fire on the entire family? Do they continue firing? I'm going to say that this is also nearly certain. 006, that is an exceptional yes. So the nymph is just opening up. Green bolts of energy are flying across down the lane towards this now spreading family who they were trying to evacuate, right? They're trying to flee. Something happened, and for some reason these nymphs are attacking the town and wanting this family dead. And this nymph is making it happen. The other giants that approached one of the nymphs, they are very clearly not a match. The nymphs are just blowing them away with these green bolts of energy. And Stone Gear himself has taken a serious, likely mortal blow to the gut, is on the ground in the mud. We're going to say on the edge of the road. Now, this nymph is chasing the family. This is horrible. This is a very brutal scene. Wow. I might need to take the phrase gentle out of the title. I was going to say gentle. Maybe this will be the not so gentle introduction to solo role-playing in 2025. Do I have the ability to crawl? Can I drag myself with my arms given my energy? or my injury, I should say. I'm going to say that this is, I have no idea, this is 50-50 if I am able to actually crawl and pull myself along. 50-50, a 12, that is a yes. Okay, there's a building. There's a building closest to me on one side. Let's say that I fell on the right side of the road. What is the building closest to me? I'm going to roll for a description. 64. It's a natural building. Maybe there's a greenery, some kind of like produce building. We'll say there's a large shop. There's a shop that sells like produce, and it's to my side, and I'm going to crawl. I'm going to use all of the strength that I have with my mortally wounded body to crawl out of the street, just fighting for my life towards the building. The nymph is running after my family. This is horrible. This is, the worst moment of Stone Gear's potentially very short life. Can he drag himself, his injured body, across the road and into the entrance of this shop? Is the door open? Is the door to the shop even open? Like, is he going to have to open it, or can he maybe crawl through the doorway? I'm going to say it's unlikely that the door is open. Very unlikely even. 47, no, the door is not open, so maybe he can push himself against the door. So we're going to crawl. We're going to pull ourselves and try with all of our strength to crawl over and out of the way of the road. Can Stone Gear muster up the inner strength and determination to do this? I have no idea. I'm going to say that it's probably unlikely. Even though he can drag his body, it's unlikely that he can make it all the way over there. But we're going to give it a chance. See what happens. 36. He just barely cannot do it. He's dragging his way over to the door of the produce building. The sounds of battle and thunder in the air. Bleeding out, and cannot muster the strength. Somewhere halfway along, he loses the strength and lays there in the mud. He rolls over onto his back, and he's looking up at the sky. What happens next? Do the nymphs notice him laying there alive in this moment, in the moment of battle? I'm going to say that this is very unlikely, but it's possible that a nymph comes across him. So let's say it's very unlikely. 87. What did I actually ask? Do they come across him? It's very unlikely, and 87 is an exceptional no. Wow. So not only do the nymphs fail to find him during the battle, but maybe he even passes out, and as time goes on, the nymphs don't even notice him lying there during the day. Like, there are so many dead giants that they just don't even find him. Now, my next question is whether Stone Gear is going to bleed out and die of his wounds. And I think that, given the circumstance, I think that this is nearly certain. Yeah, I'm going to say that it's actually... He can't even drag himself to crawl. I'm going to say that it is a certainty that Stone Gear is going to die. Yeah. Does Stone Gear succumb to his wounds? We'll call it certain, and we'll roll the D100. And we get a 74. That is a yes. So lying, looking up at the sky, Stone Gear closes his eyes, falls asleep, weary, and sometime in his sleep, his spirit gives, and he breathes his last. Now, this is tragic and potentially traumatic, but the adventures are not over. The nymph was chasing down the family of giants, but did some of them manage to get away? When they made their retreat, what would they have done? They would have had to try either hiding, or they could have broken different directions. Someone could have tried to hide in a building. Someone could have tried to make it through the wall. They could have tried to break through the wall. That may have been hard with the nymph chasing them. So why don't we ask, did any of the family manage to get away? I'm going to say that in this moment, in the moment of this battle with the nymph chasing them all down, they were trying to move as a group, and by the time they scattered, it would have been pretty late. I'm going to say it is very unlikely that anyone got away. Is it very unlikely? I'm going to say it's nearly impossible that anyone got away. But we'll give it a chance just in case. Oh my gosh, a 008. So some giant survived. Was it Stone Gear's mother? Ooh. She was trying to defend the whole family, and likely would have fought to the end. So I'm going to say that this is very unlikely that she was the one to survive. Let's give it a roll. 64, no, it was not Stone Gear's mother that lived. Was it a child that made it away? I don't know, a young giant, maybe like a teenage kind of adolescent giant. Let's call it 50-50. 53. No. Okay, so was it an elder that somehow made it away? We're going to say that this is nearly impossible that a much older person lived, unless maybe they fell in the mud and just played dead. Let's call it very unlikely. 18, it was an older giant that survived. Okay, and so I am going to take over this older giant's role, and this is actually one of the fun parts of a solo role-playing campaign, is that you can freely and at will hop from character to character as you're playing. Like earlier, we could have decided to roleplay as a nymph in the battle. We could decide to roleplay as the mother. We can freely jump from player to player as we wish. And so in this encounter, with our main character being dead, knowing that a giant survived, it makes sense to take over that character's role. So I'm going to say that this is an old man that was being shepherded along by the giants, happened to fall in the mud. I'm actually going to ask, did the old man get shot? Was he hit by a bolt? I'm going to say that this is 50-50. 34, that's a yes. Ooh, was this old man standing just behind Stone Gear when Stone Gear was hit? We're going to see that this is very unlikely, but I'm going to give it a chance because it would be crazy. 003, it was a yes. Ooh, so an old man standing just behind Stone Gear. Stone Gear was hit in the gut, and then this man was hit. I don't know, was it in a limb? Did he lose an arm? Or a hand? Let's ask, did he lose a forearm and hand? I don't know, 50-50. 35, that is a yes. Oh my gosh. So he was hit in the arm and fell. And happened to live. Wow. But he didn't bleed out. Maybe the blast cauterized his wounds. Somehow, he lives, he survives. But he has to witness everyone he loves, everyone he cares about, or they're taken from him by these nymphs. So where does he go? Okay, so he's lying on the ground and it's muddy, and he has to live, he has to get out of this. So let's put ourselves in this old man's situation, this old giant in his situation. He's in the mud, he's injured. What does he do? Does he wait it out until daytime? When it becomes day? Does he lie there all night? I don't know. Let's say 50-50 that he just lies there, not knowing what to do. Yes, 47. So he just lies there until the sun comes up. He realizes he's still alive. Maybe the sun begins to rise, and maybe does the rain clear by the morning? It's probably likely. 47. Yes, so the rain does clear. Okay, so he wakes up. Not wakes up, he sits up, looks around. It's probably a scene of serious death and destruction, but is there much going on? He has to survive this, so is it kind of empty around him, like that this village has been destroyed and whoever heard it is moving on? Or maybe there's just such a limited number of people left. I don't know, maybe they're so busy with whatever it is they're going to do in this village now that they don't notice, from all the bodies, they don't notice one person still living. Are there other giants in the road in the dawn, in the morning, when the first light shines into the village, the rain passes, and it's still dark, and the sun is coming up and shining a light on this disgusting battlefield, dead giants everywhere. The stench has to be horrible. His family members are all around him, fallen. This has to be one of the most horrible moments imaginable. But he looks up and he looks around. Is the coast clear directly around him? For him to survive this encounter, I'm going to say that this is very likely, because he has to live. And 65, it is. It is very much so clear around him. Can he hear the sounds of activity in the town? And I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 41, yes. So maybe there are voices in the distance. Maybe he can hear something happening. So he's going to have to struggle to his feet to be able to move. He has one arm maybe that's injured, but he has his feet are available. He's going to have to climb to his feet. Does he have some kind of cane or walking stick to support him? I'm going to say this is very likely. 14, yes. So he digs his walking stick into the bloody mud and pulls himself up out of the mud, a survivor against all odds. Looks up, looks around. He sees that there's no one around him. He knows that there's activity happening in the town. And he is going to begin slowly, very slowly, walking his way with one arm, holding his walking stick towards the village gate. As he is making his way, creeping, walking very slowly, but with determination, Actually, I want to ask, is he filled with survival's grit and determination? Is he just blinded almost by a fierce determination to walk his way out of Nymph Hollow? I'm going to say that this is nearly certain. 71, that is a yes. He is. He is so overcome by some emotional mixture of anger and determination. That is how he has the energy, the willpower to pull himself up out of the mud and to begin hobbling, fiercely hobbling towards the gate. Oh my gosh. As he's hobbling, I want to know, is this Stonegear's grandfather? I don't know. That would be pretty epic for the story. I'll make it 50-50. 48, yes. This is Stonegear's grandfather. In fact, and his name is, let's give him a description. Or we're going to discover meaning on the description table. 51. We get light. Ooh. Interesting. Light. And 61. Light and mysterious. Ooh, what's a mysterious name that has to do with light? What is a mysterious light? Like a glow? Like Glor. Okay, Glor. That just sounds like an old giant's name. So Glor is hobbling with one arm and his cane across the cobblestone into the town gate, and it feels like an eternity. As he takes one step at a time, picks up the cane, puts it down, the walking stick rather. It slots into a new groove in the cobblestone road, but there's no one around. But he can hear sounds in the distance, and when he nears the gate, is there even anyone guarding the gate after such a battle? For him to escape this situation, I think that needs to be very unlikely. I think it's very unlikely that there was someone guarding the gate if he survives and makes it out. But actually, we actually know that he survives the battle, that he gets away from the nymphs. We don't know that he makes it out alive from this situation. So rather than plot armoring his way through the gate, we can only plot armor his way to this point where he survived the night and he's up and he's moving. So now we are in full earnest role-playing galore. Stonegear's grandfather as he makes his way towards the town gate. I'm gonna take some notes on what's happened. So Stonegear witnesses his house being attacked by forest nymphs as he approaches across the field. Stonegear falls in with his family, attempting to escape the town. They are spotted by a nymph that what's the right way to say this? I'm going to say that slaughters most of the family, including Stonegear. He passes laying on his back, looking up at the rain. Wow. That is so very tragic. However, Glor, Stonegear's grandfather, survives a magical bolt to the forearm and attempts to escape. Yeah. We'll call this the third scene. We'll keep pressing forward. So, he's walking down the road. Does he see anyone guarding the gates? I'm gonna say that because this whole battle happened and most, I don't know, is there anyone guarding the gate? Maybe because of the battle, there's no need to guard the gate. because there's some other work being done and the defense of the community is no longer the priority. But maybe they are. Maybe they want to maintain control and hide what happened here. So I'm going to say it's 50-50 if there's someone at the gate at the earliest break of dawn, plus however much time it takes them to slowly hobble down the cobblestone road. We'll call this 50-50. 67. No, there's no one at the gate. The gate is likely in front of a... Is the gate attached to a road or a town square? Is the gate attached to a road that leads to some kind of town square? We'll call that likely. 58, so yes. So it's not like there's some big... I don't know, it's not like there's some big square where there should be people, like, doing work. He can hear sounds in the distance, but there's no one at the gate. Is there anyone down the road? Is there anyone on the road leading to the town square? This is probably likely. 72, no. He can't see anyone on that road. Wow. So Glor walks out of the front gate, and outside of the gate, does the cobblestone road continue? I'm going to give that a 50-50. I'm going to say that it's unlikely that the cobblestone road continues outside the giant's village. You'd have to have some very significant, heavily traveled path to keep running a nice cobblestone road outside of your village. I'm going to say that it's unlikely that the cobblestone continues. Does it continue? 62, that is a no. Okay, so outside the gate, there is rather maybe a big kind of dirt road leading away from Nymph Hollow. And Glor, maybe he wanders to the side of the road. I don't know, it's like he can't... I don't think he's strong enough to not follow the road, to avoid the road. I think he is going to confidently and with determination, one aching, painful step at a time, and this fierce gaze in his eyes, march away from Nymph Hollow and down this road, away from maybe the only life that he's ever known, away from his family, away from, even if he's known another life, away from the life that he made, into the unknown. Who is Glor? What does he want? Where is he going? I feel like this is an excellent moment to end our solo role-playing session. And I absolutely love ending on a mysterious note. I love building a bridge. I like to think of it as like a Hemingway bridge into the next session. Glor is an interesting character. He's a character that I want to know more about, and he's wandering angrily down the road. The survivor, the lone survivor that you definitely wouldn't have picked out of this massacre, has to be so angry, heading down the road into what? Into the unknown. And this is going to be a perfect spot to pick the adventure back up on in the next session. What did you think? I'd love to know, especially if you are a newcomer, what you think of One Page Mythic, if this was helpful to you or not, to receive an extended example of how to play, how to host a solo role-playing session. At this point you should feel pretty confident with One Page Mythic. You should be able to ask the Game Master questions. You should understand how to trigger and resolve random events. You should feel comfortable with discovering meaning on the action or description tables. I think we had a little bit of everything in today's session. We also conjured a setting and memorable characters from thin air, all using nothing but One Page Mythic, some D100, and some notes. We're going to have to change our notes from the gentle introduction to the not so gentle introduction to solo role-playing, because this was rather brutal. It's definitely not how I expected this to go at all. But it was interesting. It was fun. I had absolutely no expectations for this adventure, and Mythic conjured up something thought-provoking, inspiring actually to me. I feel like I need to make another video and keep this adventure going and see what happens next. But I'm actually the most excited to hear if this experience has been helpful to you at all. I know that it definitely was helpful to me to actually watch someone else solo role-playing when I was first trying out the hobby. So yeah, I'm going to link One Page Mythic in the description below. Feel free to check that out, pick it up, and give solo role-playing a try, and come back and comment down below. Let me know how your session goes. Once again, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe for more solo role-playing content. I'm Twin Rova. Until next time, happy scaping, and fight on!